2 p.m. UTC here, 19th of July, Wednesday. And ladies and gentlemen, crypto enthusiasts, Dior champions, prediction market aficionados, welcome to this special live Twitter AMA brought to you by Hacken. Today we have a fascinating topic to explore. We will be unlocking the future of predictions with the FORE protocol. I'm your host, Mr. Fantastic, and we are joined by an exceptional panel of experts and guests. So let's get this exciting conversation started. And the first, I would love to give our guests some space just to introduce themselves. Paul, could you please tell us a bit about your role at Hacken, like what brings you here, a little bit about your experience?
Hello, everybody. Hello, my dear listeners. My name is Paul. I am a smart contracts auditor, to be exact, smart contracts lead auditor. I have roughly 5 years experience in the Web3 space. I was a Solidity smart contract developer, not only Solidity. I had some experience also with Rust-based blockchains, with private blockchains, for example, Corda. And today I'm going to say a couple of words about what's the insights of our job and how did it go with FORE protocol, and why do the industry needs us at all.
Wonderful, thank you, Paul. Now let's welcome the minds behind the FORE protocol. Merv, of the co-founders, could you introduce yourself and share your journey in the crypto space leading up to the creation of FORE protocol?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. And firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. My name is Merv. As was mentioned previously, I'm a co-founder at FORE Protocol. Really, my background is in the traditional finance and analytics spaces. So I came from the hedge fund and private equity worlds, and really kind of have a deep background when it comes to data, analytics, investment management, and have a particular passion for predictions. And we'll definitely get into the technical aspects of that. And I've also been involved in the crypto space since about 2015. So I've seen lots of cycles and the variety of evolutions kind of the space, and really excited to be partaking and helping shape the future of the blockchain industry with the team that we have at FORE Protocol. And with that, I can maybe pass the microphone on to my colleague Simon, who can explain his background as well.
Simon is temporarily out of space, call it that way. We are actively working on bringing him back on stage. Let me just try to add him as a speaker once again. Let's see. Simon, welcome back on stage. Thanks again, Merv, for introducing yourself. And Simon, you have a position of CTA, and basically you must be aware of all the smallest technical aspects and FORE. Could you please tell us a bit about your knowledge, area of expertise?
Sure. First of all, pleasure to meet everyone here. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, so my name is Simon. I'm a software developer originally from Germany. I spent since 2017 my time already in the crypto space. I was technical lead at a very big, I would say, aggregator for liquidity for like 3 years. After that, I created my own project. And yeah, over that time, I advised quite a lot of projects, heavily into tokenization of different assets. And then some time ago, I joined this wonderful team, and here I am.
Fascinating. Thank you everyone for all your introductions. Now let's dive into the heart of the matter, FORE protocol. Could you start by telling us what makes FORE protocol what's FORE protocol just overall, and how is it any different to traditional prediction markets? and maybe what's inspired the creation of the decentralized peer-to-peer prediction ecosystem. I would like to just go back to basics to understand the project in a like overall scale.
Yeah, I'd love to maybe start out and provide a little bit of background on that. I think it's helpful to think about the FORE ecosystem kind of in two parts. So one is the protocol overall and the goals and ambitions that we're hoping to achieve at the protocol level. And then the next would be really around FORE Predict, which is the predictions market protocol. And those two things, while they are related, they are a little bit separate when it comes to objectives and goals. So at the FORE protocol level, really our ambition is to find ways to incentivize, real blockchain participants to bring activity and real world data essentially onto the blockchain. And that might sound, a little ambiguous, but really what that means is creating incentive architectures and infrastructures where people are acting, in line with their incentives. It could be rewards that they're looking to receive, etc. And by acting in that way, it creates value for the entire blockchain ecosystem. That is ultimately what FORE protocol is kind of built to do. And one way that we're doing that is through the FORE Predict protocol and product. What FORE Predict is it's a peer-to-peer prediction market that allows users to create markets and participate in markets against other users, and also to act as validators to outcomes of those markets. So you can think about it almost in a similar fashion to, and I know this is a technical audience, but we can kind of think about it from the perspective of a blockchain, right? When you have a block that's added to a chain, there are a variety of validations and that kind of need to be checked, and only then, once all the validators kind of agree, is that block appended onto the blockchain. And it's a similar concept with FORE Predict. Really, what we wanted to do was separate out the different value propositions as we saw it in traditional predictions markets, and that could be, if we look at the traditional world, it could be a world like the casino world or insurance. There are a variety of different types of predictions markets and kind of how they're implemented. But what we wanted to do was really to provide a very unique take and implementation that's driven by smart contract logic, which reduces counterparty risk and achieves the goal of what I mentioned previously, which is allowing users to bring real world data onto the blockchain. And in this context, what the real world data is users' participation, creation of markets, and general interest and validation of outcomes, as it relates to these actual predictions. So I'm sure we'll get into kind of some specifics, but I think that gives you a little bit of a high level overview in terms of FORE protocol and FORE Predict.
Oh yeah, it certainly does. Maybe Simon has anything to add to the general overview, general description.
No, I think he did a pretty good job on that.
Right. So it seems like these prediction on blockchain could be empowering in many ways. Like just for while you were describing the overall FORE protocol, it came to my mind like, can I, for example, make a bet with my friends, like I will do 100 push-ups, but again, and people will be able to predict. Someone will say yes, someone will say no, right? And how does it work that something becomes true? Like, who is the validator, and what should happen for the real life information to be transferred to the blockchain and then would be named the truth?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that we really spent a lot of time and effort designing and thinking through deeply. As we all know, in the blockchain space, there are a variety of kind of unique attack vectors that we have to be thinking about and be very cognizant of. And, things like 51% attacks, and and there are a variety of other things that that we all have to kind of think about as practitioners in the blockchain space. And really, our product, I think, is very unique in the way that we kind of are looking to address those things and the solutions that we've implemented. So I think the best way to kind of address this is maybe we can go through a detailed example, actually, and we can kind of go through the different parts, of our app, and, of our mainnet, and how it all, and the logic of how it all works, to achieve the goal. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the example that you gave, but maybe we can provide just a little bit more of an example that might be relevant to to a large number of people. So let's say, for example, maybe there is a new a new protocol that's launching, and and maybe lots of people are really excited about it, and maybe people want to. Or maybe a user such as myself, who's interested in on-chain data, is going to create a market that says FORE protocol that has the token address at this address will have more than 1,000 holders by this date and time. Okay, so that would be an example of a market that's created on FORE protocol. But really, the beauty of FORE protocol overall, and FORE Predict specifically, is the fact that these markets can be created by any user, and really about almost anything. And the idea there is we want users to effectively be participating in a market to get additional participation in their own markets. Now, what do I mean by that? So if I create a market, the beauty of FORE Predict is I essentially become similar to the casino or the investment bank, and whatnot, in that I get a percentage of all the participation in the market that I create. So from the market creator's perspective, there's an incentive to essentially market your market, right? So in other words, to get out there and advertise and discuss with your community, and get additional participation in there. So in this example that we provided, will FORE Predict have more than 1,000 holders on the blockchain, right, by this date? And that market is created by me, and my wallet address, and it's uploaded onto the FORE Predict ecosystem, and other users are able to participate. Maybe Simon thinks that the answer is yes. Maybe Paul thinks that the answer is no. And that's the beauty of a market, right? Is that it creates a mechanism for people to disagree, and it creates a mechanism for people to vote on what they think the most likely outcome is. So that's the creation and the participation. I'll pause there. I see you unmuted yourself. Maybe there's a follow-on question.
No, basically, it's a very solid, very solid start to. I just wanted to develop more the point. You as a casino, you create a basically so-called, you become so-called casino. So you create a market, and then you, as the creator of this market, it has to have a certain deadline, and on that deadline, you have to. You as a creator basically say, okay, the answer is yes, or the answer is no, or how this like
so we're getting exactly right. So we're getting to the validation portion right now. What we do not do, because it would create a security risk, is allow the creator of the market to determine the market outcome. Instead, what we've actually done is we've created a entire validation ecosystem that's driven by NFTs or 721 tokens to essentially create a voting mechanism of the community and create validators, essentially a network of validators who go around and check the outcome of what that market states. And the benefit to these users is they're able to accumulate rewards and compound the value of their NFTs through this validation process. So a very unique aspect about FORE Predict is all of the fees that that are generated within the protocol are redistributed to the parties that provide the most value in the ecosystem. And by doing so, we're essentially creating a reward system that is non-inflationary. In fact, is actually deflationary because there's a portion of all the rewards that are burnt. And so what we've done essentially is created this ecosystem of incentives where people are acting in their best interests. And by doing so, the market outcomes are validated in accordance to reality. And with that validation process, we're actually validating the data, right? So if we look at, sort of in that example, what's transpiring, we have someone created a market about on-chain data. Then we had people participating in this market determining whether that number, will be higher or lower relative to a threshold by a certain date. And then we have this ecosystem, this community of validators who are then going and staking their NFTs to determine whether or not an outcome actually happened, and then actually providing an objective source of that. And the people who were correct in their validations receive a reward, and then they're compounding value. And the people who are incorrect, they get a warning, but over time, if they are consistently incorrect, then they risk losing their NFT, and potentially losing economic value from that perspective. So when we look at it overall and take a step back, what we're talking about here is decentralizing the aspects of, I think, the word you mentioned was a casino. We don't really view it that way because really what this is it's a set of smart contracts and logic that allows users to totally remove these centralized entities, that may traditionally be called a casino, because all of these functions previously lived within a single entity, and that was a casino, an investment bank, an insurance company, whatever. But what happens when the user becomes the insurance company? What happens when the user becomes the investment bank that's providing, maybe a hedging contract on, an illiquid asset? Well, now we have a really, really interesting universe, right? And what happens when you have an entire ecosystem of people who are earning passive or, semi-passive income, through a validation process of outcomes using data that's readily available? We think that that's really innovative, and we think that that's really something that's going to drive the future of the blockchain and decentralized space. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely, it does. And just wanted to ask like a small follow-up. So there's a network of validators, and if for a certain market to be considered, like for the outcome to be validated, the data about this outcome should be publicly available. So of course, blockchain is a good example of a publicly available data. But outside the blockchain, were there any instances, or have you thought of any use cases that could be that people could create some markets around non-on-chain events?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great question, and really gets to the heart of, a lot of the specific user pain points that we're looking to address. Ultimately, what FORE protocol is looking to do is focus on bringing data that is not on chain on chain and allowing other smart contracts to be driven off of that data. So you can kind of think of it as we're building a a people-driven oracle, and in a way that hasn't existed before, and in a way that really allows all users to participate in that and grow with that ecosystem. And so for us, the FORE currency, which underlies all of the activity and FORE protocol. And by the way, our token is currently trading on MEXC and on Uniswap, so definitely go check it out. But for us, what we are looking to do is focus on the data that's not on chain. So the example that I gave was an on-chain example, but we can think about it in maybe something that I would think maybe some people here enjoy. Maybe that's sports. So we can take maybe two. We call it soccer where I'm from, but two football teams. So maybe you have Real Madrid and Barcelona. Maybe they're playing a match, and the same logic applies, right? So the example might be in the creation of a market. Maybe the market that I create is, will Barcelona beat Real Madrid by 2 goals or more, right? Or it could be even more specific. Will Barcelona score the first goal of the match? Will there be a goal within the first 12 minutes, right? And so here you can see that the combinations and permutations of the data that we're then bringing on chain that allows other smart contracts to be driven off of that becomes very powerful. And it's only limited by the imagination of the FORE community.
This is so after you started giving me examples, I completely understood about the truly infinite number of variables and actions that could happen in a game of football, and the way that you can construct your question. So literally 10,000 ways you can make 10,000 markets for a single game.
Absolutely.
Easily.
Absolutely. And I think that gets to some of the technical aspects in terms of, how we think about organizing those markets, and organizing the participation of those, which is very important from the user experience perspective. But, overall, we want to just make sure that, the folks here have a good sense of, what it is that we're looking to provide to the general ecosystem, how we're unique. And, if you think that, other Oracle projects, are interesting, if you think other prediction markets are interesting, we'd love to, have you join our community and read some of our documentation, because, I think you'll be very, fascinated about what it is that we're building. And as I said, our FORE USDT is the pair, currently trading on MEXC and Uniswap. That's active right now, but we have so much more, going on, and you're definitely excited about what we have building.
Absolutely. And you had the token sale, the ICO not long ago, am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. A couple of weeks ago was when when we first listed on exchanges, and it's been amazing since then.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been super exciting, and obviously having great partners in the industry like Hacken has been just a great way to kind of get everything up and running and to get the word out. But yeah, like I said, definitely check out, it's FORE USDT, FORE, and that's on MEXC and Uniswap. But I'll mention that a couple more times on the call for those of you who are joining intermittently.
Absolutely. And so far we have 353 listeners tuning in. Thanks everyone for tuning in, yes, and hearing us, listening to us on this hot summer day, potentially. At least in my book, it's a hot summer day. But oh well, let's get back to business. I wanted to discuss slightly touch the technicalities and overall, like let's call it the synergy that happened between FORE protocol and Hacken. So what was like how did that happen? What were you introducing, or what made you look for an audit overall? How did you got to this situation, to the realization that, okay, we have some piece of product and we have to audit it?
Yeah, I'd love to maybe start out, and then I think Simon is going to be best positioned to kind of speak to a lot of the technical aspects. So when we think about, and when I say we, I mentioned just the FORE protocol team, but the way we see it is, we're really operating on behalf of the community, and we are therefore an extension of the community, and we have to be good stewards of the trust that is bestowed upon us. And we think that not enough teams in the space take that seriously. We're all, doxed entrepreneurs. We're here building for the long term in the space. And as we're doing that, we think it's critical to treat people the way that we've wanted to be treated, as participants and investors in the space. As I mentioned at the start, we've all been active participants in the crypto markets for a long time. We've had successes. We've been rugged. We've felt what that feels like as a participant, and it's not pleasant. And frankly, we don't think that enough teams are really taking that seriously. So when we set out and endeavored to kind of form this product and grow the community, we wanted to do it in a way that we felt if we were participants in this community, we'd be really proud of that. And so what are those things? Those things are having a great team that's values driven and values oriented, being transparent, right? And I know that that's something that's kind of difficult in this space, even though it's an open ledger and everything, but there's there's an incredible lack of transparency. We wanted to do things differently. And the last piece, which is really most specifically to this conversation, is we wanted to prioritize security above all. And part of that is, okay, well, what are the attack vectors and how do you deal with them? But really, the first and foremost question is, who's the right partner to partner with? And so, for months we went through an extensive process to try to identify the best smart contract auditing and security company that we can work with. Hacken just really turned out to be an excellent partner, and also one that Simon has worked with in the past and in other projects. And above all, what we wanted to do is prioritize security, transparency, and really just doing things in the right way with a long-term mindset, and security is a big part of that. So it was a no-brainer for us to work with Hacken. It was a no-brainer with us to get a smart contract audit in place, especially given the risks and the trust in place here. Simon, I don't know if you wanted to jump in with anything related to kind of the technical aspects and kind of how we're thinking about that, but hopefully that provides a bit of context for everyone.
Yeah, sure. Let me go on. So as Merv said, I have a long history with Hacken. They are always my preferred auditing partner for various projects. So these guys are always doing a fantastic job. Especially I like the sessions with the engineers. So that's just a compliment from my side towards you guys. So what was our main thought behind audits, or why do we need them? You also have all kinds of security audits in the traditional Web 2 world. Usually you just don't notice it. All the banks, all the financial systems, they undergo security audits as well. But, nobody publicly talks about that. But in Web 3, I think it's a much more relevant topic, given that, if you messed up a wire transfer, you can always call your bank and try to get the money back. However, in crypto, we all know it's different. You do a transaction and it's done. You send it to the wrong address and there's no way to get it back. And the same applies to security. If someone managed to exploit your project and steal user funds, they are gone. Very likely you won't get them back. So this is definitely a high priority for us, or the most important priority, to make sure that this kind of exploits can't happen. And that's also why we partnered with Hacken. You guys are proven to be one of the best in the industry. And we want to make sure that our users or our community, nobody will lose their funds. From a protocol itself, or from the how the Predict platform is designed, what can always happen in this mechanism where we have different validators, for example, there could always be bad actors. They could try to get the outcome of the prediction to the wrong one in order to basically gain profits from the users. However, all these kind of things we consider, we think about it. We have like a weekly session where we think about what could be the ways to exploit the protocol. And then we design systems around it. Like we have a dispute system in place, which is controlled by a high guard. So that's how we call basically the final decision maker, which currently is a team, but in the future we will give that to a multi-sign controlled by different community members in order to have the final say. The data that we basically have for all this kind of markets, obviously we can't write everything on chain as the costs would be too high, but we store this kind of data that is not directly on chain on IPFS, and it's linked towards the market in the smart contract. So whatever market is created on FORE, whatever data is basically available will be available for everyone and forever. Nobody will ever be able to take that away from us. I think there are some points that, that were important towards this.
Cannot agree more with that. Oh, I'm sorry for that. Cannot agree more. And the more decentralized the protocol is, the more important the security is, because there are some points of failure that work 24/7, and it's the most amount. I mean, it's of course debatable sometimes when in heavily centralized projects there are some there's just different attack vectors on those, because heavily centralized projects, you want to try to make some social engineering attempts probably, or like, I don't know, go to work for your competitor, how it presumably happened with Ronin. So this is truly hard to over exaggerate. Paul, as a lead smart contract auditor, could you tell us about what we done for the FORE protocol, the way how we approached the audit, maybe some key findings that you would are able to share with us and with the audience?
Sure. We have done several audits for FORE. As far as I remember, my part, gotta admit, wasn't the biggest. It was a relatively small smart contract, and not a lot of findings, surprisingly, which is a pretty good news, given that almost everywhere, almost in any lines of code, you can potentially highlight this or that. A bug, a security vulnerability, or an issue. Well, with the token, our main points of concern were the tokenomics, obviously, and if this token can somehow be integerally overflowed or underflowed. Basically, the point which you start the audit is the same for every smart contracts, and the same approach which we used for FORE. You got to consider that if in traditional systems you have some level of KYC, and the actors of your system are supposed to be acting in the goodwill for their own interests, because you have their credentials, you have their accounts, and they are known to both to authorities and to you. In blockchain, the situation is absolutely different in regard that everybody is equal by the technical nature of it. And even if you blacklist a bad actor, he can just continue another attempt using another wallet. So you gotta make a bulletproof system which will work regardless of the intentions of the actor. This is a vulnerability which comes from the main advantage of the blockchain. I like the analogy I have heard about the casino, and I think that highlights the main difference between Web 2 and Web 3, and why do we need Web 3 at all. Like in Web 2, or let's say casino, there are always the committee of guys who have the skill switch, who can always cut down your gains and who can limit the amount of gains you have made. I'm sure that all of you have at least have seen some movies where some smart guy makes extreme big profits from the casino, and the administration steps in and asks him to leave. Well, the point of the blockchain is that there is no such guys who can approach you and ask you to move out from the casino. It's an absolutely transparent system, and the rules are carved into stone. If you can take the blockchain as a stone and the smart contract code as carvings, everybody can look at these rules. Unfortunately, not everybody can read Solidity code and especially understand the vulnerabilities of the code. So that's where we step in. It's our job not just to look at the code and to say that, yes, this system definitely does what it claims to be, like, for example, the FORE protocol. It's also our job to tell that nobody who is staking their own money, as Web3 is always about money, you are not losing to being hacked the day 2 after you do it, or the day 9,000, doesn't matter. Our job is to clarify some code which will be carved there forever, which can be relevant for a year, 5 years, or even, who knows, maybe several dozens of years, quite probably. So as soon as the code is deployed, there is no way you can fix it, and that's also main difference. That's also a good part, because the organizers of the casino cannot tell you, hey, we decided to change some rules, so it's not this way, it's going to be the other way now, because the rules are unchangeable. You can modify some parameters, but it's also our job to understand which parameters can be changed and how are they going to affect the rules of the game for everybody. So from my side, getting back to the FORE protocol, we found it pretty safe, and I can say it with full taking account from it as a lead auditor, because we sign our names on it, and it's not only our job, it's our responsibility for the audits we make, that people are going to lose their money, and if the owners of the protocol aren't going to take any advantage of the users.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned from the very start that Hacken has done a few audits for the FORE protocol. Is that correct? So FORE protocol is, because there's a very important point about regular and ongoing smart contract audits. Because once, as soon as you add some piece of code, you potentially introduce a vulnerability. So I just wanted to confirm what I heard, as that FORE protocol, it's not, we were not doing just one audit for them, but we are actually doing an ongoing audit and continuously monitoring, like continuously working with FORE. Is that the case?
Yeah, because even though, as I said earlier, the rules are carved into stone, that doesn't mean that the protocols don't develop. They do. You upgrade smart contracts, you extend one smart contract with another smart contract, you do this new pools. So it's a continuous effort, and it's bilateral effort, because we don't just say, hey guys, we found a lot of vulnerabilities, so yeah, our job is done. No, our job is that in the very end, we get a completely clear, pure, clear report, which will have all the vulnerabilities crossed out. And we are as interested in a final good report, and I stress this word, final. It can be absolutely imperfect in the beginning, but in the end, we should reach the point where everybody is satisfied, all three parties. We, our clients, and the users of the protocol. So we had several audits, and I hope that this will be a continuous cooperation. Because you can never be absolutely safe if you are not stuck into stone, and every system keeps developing, and FORE Protocol as another example of this. So I may sound contradictory, however, the thing is that even though some rules are set into stone, you still need to keep adding more and more markets and possibilities for the user, something which was not available. And this migration process is as important as writing the business rules, because if you gain a lot of customers, you need to convince them that you are not going to change the rules too drastically, that they are no longer feeling safe, staking money on your part. And on the other hand, you need to have a safe way to signal that your code is being upgraded. And that's a continuous effort and debates among the Web3 developers, publicity on how to make this upgradability, how to maintain this balance between making the protocol rules robust and at the same time flexible enough to be open for changes.
Very true. Overall, you just cannot be too protected. I mean, they can call you paranoid until you're ready, until you're prepared. Like, why would you prepare for a zombie apocalypse? Why would you have a shotgun and a big diesel truck? Everybody calls you, a dreamer, but then, oops, you're the only one who is actually able to go and live with the situation. So, like, my point is that you should certainly not neglect the security. Maybe overdoing it is nothing hurtful, but I mean, probably just your wallet as a founder. But the ROI on audits are 3 digits. Overall, from what we saw, like it's at least 500% ROI, because the cost of an audit comparing to the number of funds that your project owns and the number of funds that circulate in your users' wallets, it's much greater. So it's certainly honestly no-brainer. So there was recently an ICO, not just a few weeks ago, of your token, FORE. And this could be like, of course, this is a huge milestone for you. But what's next? What are the next big things? What should the audience and your followers be looking forward to?
Well, I agree. It's definitely a huge milestone, but to be honest, it's really just the beginning. And it's something that we've been working hard towards, but we have a lot more in store. And frankly, one of the things that we're very proud about is we actually are coming to market with a complete product and with a complete protocol. So we actually had a test net where we had thousands of users participate and actually earning rewards, who previously were kind of testing out that product, and we're getting ready to roll that out to the public in terms of Mainnet. There are some dependencies there that we're working through. Obviously, the Hacken audit being one of them. We would not release a protocol that wasn't secure from our perspective, and from the perspective of our auditors. So that's definitely one thing to keep an eye out on, is the upcoming Mainnet launch. So with that, we anticipate lots more involvement, but really now is the opportunity to kind of get involved, and begin getting exposure to to the community, how everything kind of works, and whatnot. So I'd say that's one. The other is definitely keep an eye out for additional partnerships that are going to be announced. There are a few that we're in the final stages of negotiating, and and kind of coming to terms with. So that'll definitely be ongoing as well. But above all, I think one of the best ways to kind of connect with us and really just kind of keep up to date is join our community. So we have a great community in Discord, Telegram, Twitter. Really whatever your preferred means of communication is. It's a great way for us to kind of get in touch and stay in touch, and above all, as Mainnet is being released, I think it's going to be a great opportunity, to get involved in FORE now, beforehand, and really kind of cement your place in in what we hope is a transformative future. So I think that's sort of the main kind of message is, one of the things that has helped me personally, and this is an investment advice as always, and of course, but personally, it's been investing in teams that have the right value system, that prioritize the right things, and that are building interesting products. And one of the things that I personally really appreciate and value about the FORE ecosystem, it's the team and the community. I mean, we've kind of assembled this amazing group of individuals who are this amazing combination of talented, humble, and hardworking. And that to me is probably the most special and unique aspect of it, because that transcends products and market cycles and whatnot. And as Paul mentioned, as Simon mentioned, we're going to be here for the long term. We're here building for the long term. So we would love to have you all join us in that journey, and help us build and maximize the opportunity that we all have here. So again, just to kind of put a point on it, the pair is FORE and USDT, and available on centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. So you can check it out on CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, or wherever else you're getting your crypto news.
Awesome. Your future does sound really exciting. Looking forward to hearing more massive news from you. What about, since we already talking a little bit about the future, and maybe you should, do you have any concerns about the upcoming regulations? Like overall, there's just, the crypto industry is known to be progressing very rapidly, and 2023 is not the exclusion. A lot of stuff is going on, particularly in the US. So what's your vision? Are you any concerned about some regulations that could negatively impact or drastically change the direction of FORE protocol, or this you don't believe, or you don't see any ways, any domains in which you could be regulated?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, generally speaking, it doesn't really matter what industry you operate in. I think regulation is a relevant conversation, and frankly is something that all entrepreneurs, operating in a space where regulation can affect the business, that you need to be thinking about, what that looks like, and et cetera. And I want to underscore that really is not unique to the blockchain and crypto space. If you look at oil and gas, if you look at finance and banking broadly, if you look at mining, I mean, these are some of the most regulatory intensive businesses, in the global economy. So to some degree, I think that, operating in a regulatory framework is just basic business, and I think that, we've kind of like lost some of that because we've had a little bit of like a flexibility globally, as this technology has progressed. But on the whole, I think logical global regulation is probably going to be helpful to the space on the whole, right? And so, for us, the question is, how do we make sure that we are being responsible, and doing everything above board and getting the necessary counsel and investing in that, right? Because one mistake, or one very quick error for entrepreneurs in this space is just to ignore it, right? I think that that's not good either. So for the way that we approach it is, we want to be very common sense. We want to observe and speak to key decision makers to identify, where we fall into that, and how we best position ourselves. That's sort of, how we approach it at a high level. I can't speak to kind of specifics, and how we're positioned and
Sure
whatnot
thing.
for obvious reasons. But generally speaking, we look at rational regulation as a great thing for the overall industry, and something that actually would bring in additional capital, all things being equal. So we actually don't think it's that negative. And frankly, we've been building throughout this bear market where, we've had FTX and Terra Luna and all these variety of kind of black swan events kind of happen all at the same time. But, we're still here, we're still building, we still have a great team behind us, we still have a great community, and that'll be the same in a year from now and 2 years from now, and et cetera. So for us, we're here for the long term as a team and as a community, trying to solve real world problems. And as the regulatory environment changes, we'll adapt to that the same way as if the technological environment changes. It's just another variable.
Of course, you build in the bear market and you reap in the bull one, and so this is a good time to build. When honestly, I think right now is a great time to build, even though markets is in certain duality. Like nobody can actually know where we will go right now, down or high. But at the same time, no one really puts any hard expectations, because sometimes when in the hottest days of bull run, you just have to come up with something. Otherwise, your competitors will be stepping on your toes, and you may come up with an idea that would sound really juicy and may probably work good in the short term for the bull run, but then you realize, yeah, we probably overpromised, or yeah, we probably did not think of it as 100%, and in this kind of rush, you may start to lose the basics. You lose the initial vision, and for now, this is not the case. We can still be just building and don't really look on some hypes or trends, because there's almost no hype for now. I'm not sure. The latest thing was like the hype is now in my opinion, probably zero knowledge rollups and AI. These are like the latest trends in crypto. Correct me if I'm wrong, but even those segments, the ZK rollups, even though this is a trend, it's not like booming or something. So we're clearly in no rush. So certainly a lot of time to build. And overall, just a question for Merv. You mentioned having a community, great one. You work a lot on incentivizing its participants. turning them into validators and stuff, create some markets. What would be your most memorable moment from the community? Maybe someone did some outstanding action or created a very funny or absolutely obnoxious market, and it became viral on your platform. What was the
That's a great
golden moment?
question. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think two things kind of stand out to me, and I won't name these individuals by name, but I think that just by description, and if you guys are active participants in the community, you'll probably be able to kind of piece together, who I'm talking about. But I think this is an anecdote that kind of just shows just kind of who we are as a team, and the type of product that we want to be building, on behalf of the community. So we had an early adopter, and someone who wasn't necessarily part of the team, and and whatnot, but really was just super passionate about the product. And this is someone who really loves sports, of all kinds, and maybe sometimes likes to make wagers with his or her friends, around sporting events and things like that. So this was just someone who was really active in the community, and ultimately ended up bringing in lots of other just amazing people who now have kind of formed the core of our community. And that really stands out to me, because this was someone who didn't have a vested interest, didn't wasn't a team member, didn't have an advisory allocation, whatever the buzzwords are. And this was just purely, this is an awesome product with a great team. And he didn't even ask, he or she didn't even ask kind of how they can get involved. They just started inviting other people, explaining how things worked, explaining what they were passionate about. And now that not only is that person kind of a pillar in our community, but also that energy kind of permeates our community as a whole. So why do I share that story? I think that one of the unique things about the blockchain space is this concept of, if we all just grow the pie together, we all share in that pie. And and it's a very community driven, decentralized type of culture. And that's really where this whole thing kind of started out, right? Like, that's what Satoshi kind of had in mind. And now when we fast forward, to today, and we look at, all of these altcoins, and, all of these, different projects that are ongoing. I mean, what's unique now, and I think what needs to be unique is getting back to where everything all started, which is, how can we be a community of people with shared interests, who want to build? And then on the other side of that, how do we have builders who want to build and share? And when those two things converge, I think really amazing things happen. And so, when I think about that anecdote, that's basically what it is. You have a team that is, has built a product, and wants to grow that. And you have these early adopters that, are seeing that, and they're like, hey, this is pretty cool, and this team is awesome. And, I like how you guys are, approaching things. And you know what? I want to join you for this journey. And then on the other side, you have the team that reciprocates that, right? And that to me is really beautiful. And I hate to get too cliche and almost sentimental about it, but that's really the truth. And that's something that really stands out to me. Hopefully that answers your question.
Certainly it does. And I totally agree with that point. Community is it's the engine, but it's also the fuel. So it's like really unique, because they kind of help you to build your project, and while also empowering you to do so. And by working with the community, by listening to it, by communicating actively with its members, you do obtain this power, this motivation, this drive. So extremely important. Congrats on achieving this, honestly.
Well, thank you so much, and again, thank you to everyone for taking the time to join us. We think that we're on a really exciting journey, but we have so much more to announce, to deliver, and we're excited to continue to work with Hacken to prioritize security, in this protocol and beyond. And we're really excited to welcome you all into our community. Again, join us on Telegram, on Discord, follow us on Twitter, or wherever else you get your crypto news, and definitely check out our token live on exchanges. It's F as in Frank, ORE, and the stable side is USDT. You can find that on MEXC and Uniswap. So really appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you.
Awesome. As we come to the end of this captivating AMA session, I want to leave you guys, our listeners, with a reason to hit the follow button for Protocol, and as well Hacken at Hacken Club on Twitter, because knowledge is your most potent weapon in crypto. And by following FORE Protocol on Twitter, you just open the gateway to this extraordinary world of decentralized predictions, and you'll stay connected. You'll be the first to know about latest platform updates, upcoming features, etc. So make sure to check out at FORE Protocol. And on the other hand, following Hacken on Twitter means that you're in the fortress of the cybersecurity expertise, and we will help you to stay vigilant, informed about all the best practices to protect your digital assets. So if you are interested in gaining any insights in the ever-changing security landscape, make sure to hit that follow button for Hacken Club. Awesome, guys. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Simon, Merv, Paul. It was an incredible AMA, and thanks for all our viewers, listeners, those who will listen to it on the recording. Thanks for staying tuned, and it was Mr. Fantastic checking out. Take care.